I'm White House Correspondent Dr. Matthew Anthony Harper here with InterMountain Christian News and U.S. Ambassador to Israel. Mike Huckabee joins me tonight from Jerusalem. Congratulations to you, Ambassador Huckabee, for your position, a very unique role. And I would like to get into it a little bit later about how this transpired, but a very special experience for you.
It has been an incredible just joy to be here. And I can't think of anything the president would have ever asked me to do that I would have said yes to, because I wasn't looking for a job. I was happy living in the private sector. But this was for me, Dr. Harper, an Isaiah moment. Here am I, Lord, send me. And so here I am. And I'm grateful to God for the privilege.
Our audience prays blessings for Israel, for you in your role, and for all that is going on. It's very troubling time. I wanted to thank you for joining me and our Christian audience and Jewish audience, and these crucial issues that are impacting Israel and the surrounding Middle East. And let me start off with my first question, and I thank you for your time. In light of the Houthis and the Syrians still firing on Israel, firing missiles, how's President Trump assisting Israel on their seven-front war?
Well, he's been the best friend Israel has ever had. There's never been an American president who has done more for the state of Israel and the Jewish people than President Trump. We go all the way back to his first term. He recognized Jerusalem as the eternal, indigenous, undivided capital of the Jewish state. That was huge. Moved the embassy to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv. That was historic. Recognized the Golan Heights. Determined that it was not violation of international law for Jewish people to live in Judea and Samaria. He has been the best friend Israel has ever had. And the people here know it. He is beloved in Israel, and rightfully so. In his second term, he's already spent more time with Prime Minister Netanyahu than any other foreign leader. That gives you some idea of the relationship that the U.S. and Israel has. I tell people the U.S. has friends, it has allies, but it really only has one partner, and that's Israel. We share not only high levels of intelligence and military capability, but what we also share is the common values of a Judeo-Christian underpinning that is the very essence of all of Western civilization. And that makes this relationship incredibly unique, incredibly important, and one that, quite frankly, I don't think we will ever see broken.
It is a very special relationship, a very special bond. And I know a lot has been new developments regarding Iran. My next question, with the latest what are the latest developments on talks with Iran? I know a lot of things have been happening here recently about that, especially with regards to stopping Iran's funding of terror proxy groups and preventing Iran from having a nuclear bomb.
The president has been so very clear that Iran's not going to have a nuclear weapon. If they really want anything to happen, they need to stop enrichment. They need to get rid of enrichment. They're not going to be able to maintain their centrifuges and all of their paraphernalia that they claim is for peaceful purposes, but they've already enriched beyond what would be necessary for that. But look, I'm still hopeful. I'm still optimistic. The president has invested a lot in trying to negotiate them to a place where they realize that it's better for them to voluntarily give up nuclear aspirations. And let's hope that works. I know that the special envoy, Steve Witkoff, has more meetings scheduled this week. So, I pray for a diplomatic solution. We all do. It would be wonderful. I don't know if it'll happen. The president himself said he's not sure that the Iranian regime is serious about wanting to end their nuclear hopes for a weapon. But you got to give the president credit. He is giving the Iranians every opportunity to deal with this in a peaceful, non-lethal way. And I hope it's going to be successful.
Well, and I do hope, and so many are praying that it will be successful. And can't underemphasize enough the importance of prayer on this matter. But what is President Trump's response to those that would support a two-state solution? I know we hear that a lot. We've heard that recently with France. But what is his response to this two-state solution been provided, I think, so in a so much of a delusional way, but dividing Israel in light of there is a Jewish scripture of Joel 3:2, this warning about dividing Israel.
I think the president in his first term recognized that it simply was not on his dance card to focus on that. It has been a doctrine of both Democrat and Republican administrations for several generations now, 30, 40 years. But President Trump is a pragmatist. He's not a person that says, oh, well, this is how it's always been done, so therefore that's what we're going to do again. One of the reasons that I'm so proud to serve him, one of the reasons that I'm so very much just grateful for him, is because as president, he does not look at things like most political figures do. He asks two questions of every issue. Will it work, and will it make things better? So for someone to sell him on the idea that Israel ought to carve out some more of its land and give up Judea and Samaria for a separate Palestinian state, they're going to have to answer two questions. Will it work, and will it make things better? I hear a lot of people saying there ought to be a two-state solution, but none of them can answer those two questions. Will it work, and will it make things better?
It is such a serious issue, and for a lot of Jewish people and evangelical Christians. And I want to move on to the issue of UNRWA, which, by the way, that I've been dealing with that with a lot at the White House. But since President Trump's bold move in defunding of the UN terrorist organization UNRWA, what is the response to UNRWA? They're still operating, and to the nations that would fund it.
Well, it's one of the reasons, and I know your reporting helped expose UNRWA and what it was really about and how it was being used as a corrupt form of promoting terrorism and really nefarious acts. And so that's very significant. And I appreciate very much your bringing that to light. I'm so grateful President Trump didn't do what other presidents have done, and that's just continue to write the checks and let these people at the UN fund the organizations that were wasting taxpayer money. But more importantly, it wasn't just wasting it, it was using it for things that actually were in the opposite interest of freedom, of liberty, of responsible living. UNRWA has been linked to terrorist activity, not only within the PA, but especially in Gaza with Hamas. And why would anyone give a penny to help support the Hamas regime that has been really responsible not only for October the 7th and the massacre and mutilation of 1,200 Jewish people, but also taking of hostages and then the ongoing suffering of people in Gaza because Hamas simply will not let go. Everything that's gone wrong with Gaza, the hostages, the torture, the deaths of their own people, the hunger, everything. It's because Hamas has engineered it that way. It's not because the Israeli government wants it that way, and it's certainly because the US government wants it that way. It lies solely at the feet of Hamas.
I want to make it very clear that the US is not funding UNRWA, thanks to President Trump's bold steps on that matter. And so what happens forward on this issue of UNRWA?
Well, I hope that other countries will join the United States in stopping this nonsense. Sometimes, and I'm not speaking for the president or for the country right now, but I scratch my head and wonder, why are we funding the UN at all? This recent charge the president gave to us was to bring humanitarian aid to Gaza. So an organization was created, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. We've now served over 12 million meals to people in Gaza. They've often come by when they pick up their food and they say, thanks, President Trump. And then they say, this is the first time we haven't had to pay for the food because Hamas was stealing the food in the UN delivery system and the UN let it happen. And then they would take the food that they stole and they would sell it to the people of Gaza at twice the amount it should have been charged. They shouldn't have been paying anything. It was supposed to be humanitarian assistance, but they charged them for it. And with that money, they paid Hamas soldiers, and then they bought weaponry that was used to murder more people. So by using this new methodology, which delivers food in individual smaller boxes that'll feed a family of 5 for 10 days, it's harder to steal the food. So the president gave two really charges to us. One, get the food into the people that need it, and two, keep Hamas's hands off of it.
Such a serious issue, concern a lot of corruption in Gaza. I wanted to move on to as far as to ask, what is President Trump's position on recognizing the area that some call the West Bank as its ancestral name of Judea and Samaria?
Well, as you probably know, Dr. Harper, I use the term Judea and Samaria because that's the ancient and the biblical name and is the historic name. And it does represent some of the most important biblical land that exists in Israel. For example, the ancient city of Shiloh, where the first tabernacle was for 369 years, the place where Hannah prayed, and Samuel was born to Hannah from that prayer, one of the first open prayers we saw in the entire Bible. It's the home of Hebron, which is the tomb of the patriarchs, Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, an incredible biblical site. So when people talk about Judea and Samaria, they need to realize we're talking about some of the most historically significant places in all of the Bible. As to what the policy is, the United States has taken the view that it is not our decision to determine the future of Judea and Samaria. It's ultimately going to be the future and decision of the people of Israel. And, they're methodical and thoughtful in the way that they're approaching it. Everybody understands that there are hundreds of thousands of Palestinian people that matter. We want for them to be prosperous and have good and decent lives. But under the corrupt administration of the Palestinian Authority, so much of the money that was ever given to build them a better life has resulted in a wrecked economy where 50% unemployment exists. The people who lead the PA end up becoming quite wealthy, but the people who live in the midst of the PA live in poverty in so many cases. And their children are trained from the time they're 6 years old to hate Jews and to aspire to kill Jews. And if they do grow up to do that, their families are given pensions. They're rewarded not only financially, but with streets and parks named after them. So if there's going to be some type of resolve, there's got to be a cultural change in order to see that through.
Well, thank you, Ambassador Huckabee. The final question, in light of President Trump's historic efforts in establishing the Abraham Accords, what additional countries does President Trump expect to join the Abraham Accords?
Well, I think the president does not get enough credit for the original Abraham Accords that he was able to sign in his first term. This is an opportunity, and only President Trump could pull this off, in my deep belief. But I think we're going to see some historic movement and a realignment of the Middle East, the likes of which nobody would have ever imagined even a year ago. It's on the way. It's fragile. I'll be the first to tell you. There are a lot of ways everything could go sideways. But without naming countries, I would say that it's possible that before President Trump ends his second term, there will be a complete realignment of the Middle East that will see Gulf states throughout the region be in a normalized relationship with Israel and engage in trade and tourism and all sorts of cooperative efforts that will bring a new sense of security to the region, not just to Israel, but to all of the other Gulf states as well.
Well, thank you, Ambassador Huckabee, for joining our audience with these so important issues.
It's been my pleasure, Dr. Harper. Thank you, and God bless your audience, and tell them to pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Will do.